There are a lot of declarations in the other direction. Many people appreciate what we have done in almost 10 years of government. Most of all about the defense of ethical values, of the individual, of life, of the family, and the freedom of teaching, all things that we consider our values. We are the backbone of an Italian Catholic party in that great family of democracy and freedom in Europe, which is the European People's Party.
But something in the relationship between you and the EPP has stopped working. Joseph Daul said that Mario Monti is the candidate for the EPP. What's the problem?
He denied saying that. Maybe he did say it, and that would be...
Do you think it's a personal point of view, or is it the expression of a common European feeling?
Absolutely personal. He's just one of the 14 vice presidents of the EPP. Maybe he has his own agenda. He speaks German better than French because he comes from Strasbourg. Obviously he wants to please someone, just to get something back for his own career. I have to say I was very upset by these statements, but I repeat, they're statements that make no sense, that go against the Italian reality. There were many other statements about my attitude towards Europe. Let me take this opportunity to say that there's no Italian who's more pro-European than I am. Even before I got into politics, I shared the dream of Schuman, Adenauer and de Gasperi, a European Union as one whole entity like the USA.
When was the breaking point between you and the EU? There must have been a moment when something snapped. If Martin Schulz, the president of the EU Parliament, now clearly says that Berlusconi is a threat, not a source of stability, but a threat to Italy and Europe.
That's because I had a run-in with him during a session of the European Parliament when he said very unpleasant and groundless things about me, my government and my party.
Are all these statements just personal opinions? Schulz, Daul, even Juncker, they express themselves in such a way.
But you're not giving me very esteemed names in Europe.
The President of the European Parliament is not esteemed?
The President of the European Parliament is the product of negotiations between our political party and the Social Democrats. The Social Democrats named Schulz, and given that there was a pact to have us for half of the Parliament and then the Social Democrats for the other, we agreed. That does not mean that we hold Mr. Schulz in high esteem. I'll say this about Europe. When there was a universal decision, which I also strongly supported, to appoint a president of the Council of Heads of State and Governments of Europe, I proposed Tony Blair as the most influential candidate, the most charismatic, the most expert and respected around the world. It was the same thing with the appointment of High Commissioner Catherine Ashton. France and Germany, who wanted to keep control over foreign policy, said no to the appointment of Tony Blair, and so we had to appoint a person like Mr. Van Rompuy, totally unknown among Europeans. Personally, I'm friends with Van Rompuy.
Maybe it's because the Franco-German axis is decidedly more powerful than Italy in Europe.
But it goes against Europe as an important entity on the international scene that can export democracy and can play a decisive role on the international chessboard. It's not by keeping Europe the way it is currently, with national sovereignty jealously guarded by each country, that we can imagine a Europe that lives up to the dream of the Founding Fathers.
Why is Angela Merkel so unkind to you?
She's not unkind to me.
Then what is the problem with her?
She's someone I've always had cordial relations with. There's no problem. The only problem is that I have to defend Italy's interests, and given that Germany wants hegemony in Europe, I'd like it to be a hegemony of solidarity.
It could be that your sceptical statements about the euro provoke this mixed reaction of Europe towards your candidacy.
I have never been sceptical about the euro.
You have accused the euro of several evils, haven't you?
I've never said anything of the kind. I'm strongly convinced about how useful the euro single currency is, but I just say there has to be a global construction around this currency. A money that is not supported by a central bank is a weak money.
As a possible future minister of the Italian economy, what would your priority proposal be at the first European summit?
In all the European councils, I was the one who had experience and an above-average knowledge. All my colleagues were fine people, but some of them came from bureaucratic circles, others only from politics, others only had union experience. There was no one with my economic experience, someone like me, who for several decades was in the thick of the world of work and the market. I have in me the combined experience of the world of the market and of governing.
So figures such as Juncker, Olli Rehn, Barnier. Juncker, Olli Rehn, Barnier have no experience in your opinion.
Juncker is also a doyen of these councils, but he expresses a very small country where he was elected with 58,000 votes. In consequence, his influence and his political dimension are not comparable to someone who represents a country of 60 million inhabitants. I've always had friendly relations with all of my colleagues seated around the same table at the European Council. But I definitely became a nuisance when I started to say no, or I used my veto to defend the interests of my own country without attacking others.
You don't feel a bit isolated in Europe?
Absolutely not. I keep in touch with my colleagues regularly, but I also have a special talent for respecting others and making myself appreciated. I'm a person who's very open to friendship, and if there's anyone who in 20 years of political life knew how to knit friendships with other leading political figures, that man is me.
The way Italy is seen abroad is not the same, it's quite different. The international media, and especially Europeans, don't much like it. Is this a view that has been deformed by a distance from the problem, or is it something else? Why do all the European media say the same thing about you?
I have to contradict you, because I've been to Prague, I've been in France, and everywhere people in the street recognize me.
We're not talking about being known, but being liked.
I've always had an extremely open, warm welcome from my entrepreneur colleagues, from my colleagues in the EPP. The media mostly lean to the left, and there's a link with the Italian media that's mostly aligned to the left. There's a sort of chain link, particularly with the Italian newspaper La Repubblica, that cultivates all these friendships, and this chain's deployed against me.
Is La Repubblica so powerful that it influences The Economist, Libération, Le Monde? Maybe you're giving it too much importance.
Yes, there is a circuit, and in this circuit they ask each other for help. They feed each other news. The same news is taken up. That is to say, I'll publish a piece, please pick it up, and it ends up as if it were the opinion of Libération. And this is something I always have to guard myself against.
So if you win the elections and you go to a European summit, do you think Angela Merkel will welcome you with open arms?
With Angela Merkel, I've always had a very good relationship. Just once, she and Sarkozy had an attitude that attacked my international credibility. And Mrs. Merkel asked me, how come you're still speaking to me?
Angela Merkel said that to you, and did you speak to each other after that?
Yes, of course, we continued to talk. I'm unable to hold a grudge. Sometimes I'm too good. I've never had problems with her. I had some difficulties with Sarkozy about another question. Because when I agreed with him, with France, about Mario Draghi's appointment as president of the ECB, Sarkozy asked in return that the Italian member of the board resign. Naturally, I accepted, but Bini Smaghi refused to resign, even though we offered him a lot of alternative options. He wanted to become the governor of the Bank of Italy. For us, for me, as Prime Minister, he didn't fit the role.
With Sarkozy, was there always a struggle for leadership? For example, about strategy in Libya. Sarkozy was in the forefront, while Italy, which played a role there historically, had a certain influence, didn't get better results. France was more efficient.
No, France followed its own interests. When Sarkozy went to Libya and he saw enormous billboards showing me and Gaddafi as great friends, he went back home and told his men, Italy's going to take all the Libyan oil and gas away from us. We have to do something. So he bombed the column that Gaddafi had sent to Benghazi, and he convinced the other countries to intervene. That night, I wanted to resign because there was undue interference from the international community in the problems of a country.
If you pointed out just one important person in your life, I'm not talking about your personal life, but your political life, someone from whom Silvio Berlusconi thinks he could still learn something.
From a political point of view, I've always looked to the leaders of the world powers. I've always had excellent relationships with the US presidents. I got to have a strong friendship with George Bush. I had good relations with Clinton, with his wife, Mrs. Clinton. I had good relations with Obama, who I admire as someone capable, with great common sense. I have a fraternal relationship with Vladimir Putin. I think that nowadays he's the best politician in the world. I think that Russia is enormously fortunate to have him as a leader.
Is he also misunderstood abroad?
Absolutely, yes. His image is exactly the opposite of what he is.
Just one personal question to conclude. Is there anything that keeps Silvio Berlusconi awake, stops him from sleeping? Is there something that haunts you as a politician?
As a politician, no. Being responsible for my country because of the trust many fellow citizens place in me, yes. Right now, the spiral of recession concerns me.
Grazie a lei.